We're here at the Bill Edwards Center off of Airport Road with Doretha Yates, who is the director of our award-winning finance department. Welcome, Doretha.
Thank you.
And I say award-winning, apparently you have recently won an award.
Yes, we won the GFOA Award of Excellence for Financial Reporting for the 22nd year recently, so we're very proud of that.
Excellent. And what is GFOA for folks out there who may not know?
GFOA is a Government Finance Officers Association, and it is an association which it judges our financial reporting to meet certain standards, and also provides a lot of support services for financial officers throughout the United States and Canada.
So that means we're doing something right.
I believe so.
Excellent. And I know you often characterize this department as the one that balances the books for the city, but today we're going to go a little deeper than that.
Okay.
Let's talk about the 2016 budget. There are highlights that we can talk about. Unless people are diligent and actually look into the budget, they may not know much about it. So let's start off by talking about the budget process, how we go about developing a budget each year.
Okay.
How does that work?
That process is definitely a collaborative process across the city. It usually starts sometime in July. The process is supported by our software, and what we do is we ask the departments to go in and put their proposed budget into the software. Then sometime around probably October, the department heads, the deputy city manager, assistant city manager, finance director, and HR director begin meeting in individual department meetings and come up with a proposed budget for the city manager to review. City manager usually reviews that sometime in October and end of October, first part of November, and then we meet with the board in work sessions during the month of November. We met twice this last year in November with the board to come up with a proposed budget. That budget is usually voted on sometime in one of the December board meetings.
So
it's a long
ultimately,
process.
that process does end with the board of directors as the decision maker.
That's correct. It's their budget.
Okay. And the budget year is the same as the calendar year.
Yes, that's correct.
So you just recently rolled in the 2016 budget.
Right.
Okay. So where can citizens go to review the budget and all of the details?
Okay. We post the budget on our city website, www.cityhs.net. You can go to the finance department, and then there is a budget book session there, and click on the most recent budget book. It's about 229 pages of a lot of detail, but there's also some summary pages. So anyone really wants to dig into it and get it line by line, it's out there on the web for them to do that.
So they can go into details, but if they want to know about the major components of the budget, what would that be?
That would be mainly, there's a page at the beginning that tells the total revenue and expense. We go through each budget, each fund that we budget, and determine the revenue and expense for that budget by categories. But they can get that total revenue and expense budget right at the front page. There's a summary. The board does not approve all of the budgets, all the funds. They only approve certain funds as required by state law. Many of the grants and things like that, the board approves that process, them in the process of approving the grants, so we don't really have a separate process. So those budgets for those funds aren't in there, but the major funds for the city, the general fund, other governmental funds, and all the utility funds, you can find them in that budget book.
And you mentioned grants, which is a good point. The city does receive a good deal of revenue from grant sources every single year, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Our two of our major grants are the Community Development Block Grant, and that grant is one that has a lot of public involvement as well. And then another big source of grants, actually there's three, another big source of grants is for the airport. The airport probably receives generally over $1 million a year in grant funding from the FAA and from the state for improvement projects out there. And then finally, of course, is our intercity bus, which we received a large, over $500,000 from that a year from the federal government as well to help run that operation.
So it definitely indicates that the city does everything that it can to pull those federal dollars into the city budget to be able to accomplish its goals.
Certainly, that's a way to leverage what we do here locally, and it's a great program.
Right, and without which our airport would have not been able to be in the black all these years. We're going to be missing George Downey, who is so good at attracting those grants
We will be.
as airport director.
Big shoes
Okay.
to fill.
Yes, absolutely. Some of the highlights of the 2016 revenue budget, would you like to get into those?
Sure. As you know, our main source of funding is sales tax, and sales tax makes well over 50% of our revenue in the general funds, police and fire. And in 2015, we budgeted like a 1% increase in our sales tax. And we still don't have the numbers yet for November and December, but at this point, we have enjoyed a 5% increase for 2015.
What great news.
That is absolutely, it's great. It tells you there's a lot of things going on positive in the city here.
And we haven't seen 5% in a long time, have we?
No, we have not. So that's very exciting. We are very conservative, though, in our budget. And in 2016, we budgeted like a 2% increase. And would love to have another one of those 5% years. Another big source of funding for us, of course, is Oaklawn. And Oaklawn was up like 33% in 2015 over 2014. And the budget, again, we budgeted conservatively on that, and our revenue came in much higher than what we budgeted for that. We budgeted, I believe, a 15% increase for 2016.
15%.
Right.
So a little less than half. then.
Yes.
Okay.
And so those are two of our big growing numbers. On our utility funds, of course, we've approved rate increases in the past on those, and both of those we budgeted an increase of 3% in water and wastewater. So that's just sort of an inflationary measures to keep up with inflation. So we really don't have any extraordinary sources of revenue that we budgeted, but the good news is those, our major sources of revenue are increasing and continuing to increase some.
And when you're budgeting conservatively, that means that the city's always coming out a bit ahead.
That's correct. So.
All righty. Well, how about going on to the expense side? What do things look like for 2016?
Yeah. The 2016 budget is pretty much a continuation budget. We don't have a lot of new things in there. In fact, some of the capital levels that we've had in the past, we've cut a little bit in the general police and fire budget. So we don't have a whole lot of expense. One thing that's in the 2016 budget that I'm really excited about is there is an upgrade for our financial management software. Of course, I've said financial management software, but it covers all areas of the city. And it'll also impact our payroll, it'll impact our utilities. And the software we've had basically since 1990. And I think we've done a good job, making it work for us. But it's great that we're going to have something new on the horizon. And I think it'll be exciting. The migration is always a little laborious, but exciting to get through it and be able to offer a better level of service to our customers.
Something that taxpayers might not ever see, but it will definitely touch just about every aspect of city government.
Absolutely. And the utilities, we budgeted quite a bit of capital in there as well. And one of the things that we do every year is we budget probably about 1.5, sometimes 2 million. I believe it was 1.5 for 2016 for water line improvements. And so that's a real positive thing to continue to replace some of those old water lines. Another big area of our budget is the street fund. And as you know, we had that new half-cent sales tax that came into effect a couple of years ago. And so that has really helped us with being able to pave more streets. And we also passed the Complete Streets ordinance this last year. So I think that, some of our streets and the paving and reconditioning our streets can become much more strategic. So that's exciting for the city. I know that's exciting for our engineering department, for our parks department as well.
Absolutely. And that is something that taxpayers will be able to see the results of.
That is very visual. So,
Any other highlights that you'd like to mention, or as we wrap up our discussion on the 2016 budget, anything you'd like to add?
We also have, a couple things is the bond issues that we've done. And we did a bond issue in 2013 for the wastewater fund. And we've got about $22 million left of that to spend. And of course, that has to do with our trying to meet federal mandates as far as our overflows. So that will definitely, we have it slated for spending in certain areas, but that's still out there. And then we did a bond issue this last year in the water fund for 7.8. Well, the proceeds were 7.8 million, so we'll be spending that as well as we start some upgrades on our Ouachita water plant. So those are, we've got a lot of, big things going on in the city. And so we're excited about this budget and getting ready to do all the things that are in the budget to try to meet the strategic plan of the board.
Right, and we appreciate the Board of Directors, giving us a roadmap for the priorities that we need to meet. And you have mentioned several times items that relate to improving our roads and improving our infrastructure.
Right. So that was definitely part of their strategic plan, the downtown, some of the work that we've done there. And I can't emphasize how excited I am about what all's going on downtown. So.
Well, it's nice because we're talking to someone who gets excited about numbers, and as does her entire department, and that's why you do such a great job.
Well, thank you.
We appreciate the service that you provide to all the city departments, because we rely heavily on the finance department to be able to do our purchasing, to be able to implement those grant-funded projects, and on it goes.
Yeah. Well, thank you for highlighting my department, Terry, and we enjoy serving you guys.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. If you have any questions about the finance department, you can always give them a call, and the number would be?
321-6825. Give me a call. I love to talk about numbers, as Terry said, and we'd be glad to go over anything with you that you've got questions on. So.
All right. Thank you so much. And next week, we'll bring you more city news.